as you were talking, you mentioned friendships and having close friendships, especially in a time where you're going through grief. So how tight is your closest circle of business friends? Are those business friends the same circle of just friends when you don't even want to talk business and you just want to share personal stories? What does that tight network of people around you look like?
Good question. Because of how crazy life has felt like it has been recently, we are admittedly very much homebodies when it comes to what are we going to do with our time when we are not on the road, when we're not at the office, when we're not leading this team or doing some work to try and deliver these tools. We have 4 kids, like I said, and so spending time with our kids. We have a house that's at the end of a cul-de-sac in the middle of freaking nowhere, and it's a retreat. And so a lot of the things that we like to do revolve around the kind of piece of this retreat that is our house. When we do hang out with friends, we aren't talking about work at all. And we have a very small, close-knit group of humans that we spend time with on like the social side of things. And there's an appreciation with them and anyone that ultimately comes into the circle that if we're going out, we're going to go out and have fun as humans that aren't people who write books or stand on stages, or that, you know, we are just going out to have a good time. Let's hang out and catch up on the awesome and crazy chaos that is raising humans, the interesting nature of us working together. We have friends who also work together as husbands and wife, and the dynamic of still wanting to make out with your partner is a thing that is a relatable thing. You can talk about some of that interpersonal stuff without it having to tip into getting too much into the business. Mm-hmm. When it comes to the business friends, our business friends have continued to change as our business has changed. And as we have continued to grow and the complexities of the things that we're challenged by continue to be bigger than where we were previously, we've had to continue to find people who could speak into their experience in having traversed similar things. And the people who can speak into it in, here we are, October of 2019, are different, frankly, than people who could have spoken into it in October of 2018. Because there are some things that we are working on, or the ambition of our dreams, or the complexity of what it means to have a company that's as big as it is now relative to how big it was then, that require us to now sit at tables with people who have a little bit more advanced set of experience. And I mean, part of it is, I, from a business perspective, want to every single time sit at a table with people who have done things bigger than I have, that have done them for longer than I have, who have made more mistakes than I have, who, in having had those experiences, are willing to share where they stepped in it so that I can avoid stepping in it. And so that's required a really active pursuit of finding a way to sit at tables with people who can share. In that, though, you don't just get invited if you're going to be a leech taking from people, as we've had experiences of being more trailblazers than trail managers and trying to find a way to do something that maybe hasn't been done in a more conventional sense. When we crack something that feels like it's working in how we're delivering value to our audience, or how we're organizing our team, or how we're leading leaders, whatever it might be, our ability to bring our insights to that table is part of why we're invited to sit in that space. And so if you want to, if you want to sit at a table with someone who's had more business experience or is doing something in your space that you aspire to ultimately do, you need to ask yourself, what of what you're doing, what of your unique life experience, what of the things that you currently have, some trailblazing experience may be value added to you sitting at that table and talking about how you've done what you have, so that it's a give and take, so that there's an appetite for them sharing with you as much as hopefully you sharing with them.
That sounds good. So who would we be surprised to know is actually in your contacts or in Rachel's contacts, that maybe we're just thinking, wow, I had no idea that you guys knew each other, that you guys were, on that kind of basis?
The thing is, I don't know that there would be surprises necessarily, because we have been geeks about the amazing nature of being able to get to know some of the people that have now been generous enough to bless us with their time on our stages for our events. We're doing a business conference called Rise Business. It's happening here in 5 weeks worth of time in South Carolina, in Charleston. And every person that is on stage was basically a person that we were blessed to be in community with, who, when we asked if they'd be interested in joining us, attempting to teach some very practical, tactical things to small business owners or people building their career, they jumped at the chance. So Brendan Burchard, Marie Forleo, Ed Milet, Tom Bilyeu, Chris Hogan, Amy Porterfield, Dean Graziosi, Trent Shelton. I mean, it's like, I mean, I've said, it feels a little bit like assembling a dream team from the old Olympic basketball days. It's like assembling an Avengers kind of a crew when it comes to having people who each have their specific disciplines come together. But that group, that crew has become the go-to when we run into a business problem that we haven't run into before. If it's specific to a discipline that one of them has expertise in, they've had a willingness to talk with us, and it goes both ways. If any of them is trying to figure out something and throwing a live event, or thinking about digital education with some coaching or whatever it might be, I am crazy focused on this notion of impact. Like instead of focusing on how big your team can be, instead of how much money you can make, instead of what your title might end up being, if you focused exclusively on how much impact you could create because of how much value you can deliver, the rest of those things will come. And the idea of pursuing impact isn't then exclusive to impact that we can create here at the Hollis Company. The idea of impact is like a universal currency. And so if we, in figuring something out, can, to any of the people I just mentioned, share a little bit of what we figured out, and they can have more impact, the universe is better, the world is better, the possibility of people unlocking the potential that they've been given by the Creator is better. It's just it's a thing that I want to relentlessly pursue, in part because I think the more that you can give in that kind of way, the more that you're going to have it come back on you and to you. Like any of these people getting any benefit from anything that we do will come back 3, 5, 10 times over on how they might bless our business with an insight to pursue something that we may have not thought was possible, figured was too hard, decided that maybe we don't have the competency or skill set for. I have sat in rooms with the people that I just mentioned, and they have convinced me to get past some block that I had about what we were actually capable for, in a way that turned my fixed mindset into a growth mindset in that capacity. And our business is blessed, and the people who've experienced the fruit of us pursuing that business have had their lives blessed by our ability to give them those tools.
Well, I think that's pretty impressive, basically building a company from scratch, getting to sit in a room with people that you maybe, I was going to say that you maybe never otherwise would have thought you would sit in a room with, but I don't know, from what I hear about Rachel, I mean, she envisions these dreams and then makes them happen. And so maybe this was something that she envisioned, this wasn't something that she thought was out of touch. This was something very much in alignment with what she was already dreaming up.
I mean, she's talked about it a lot of times. She has had this practice. I've adopted this practice. There's power in this practice. Writing your dreams in present tense as though they have already happened is a hack that, for your unconscious mind, has it believing that that thing already happens, and then works to make it so by connecting dots and leading you, whether it's consciously or unconsciously, on a pursuit to actually make it be. I mean, with Brendan Burchard, he is a friend. He's a good friend of ours now. And he was someone for years that she, on a piece of notebook paper, was writing down, I speak on Brendan Burchard's stage. She'd read High Performance Habits. She loved his other work. She was just really someone who he was a mentor that did not yet know she existed or that we existed. And she wrote it down, and she wrote it down, and she wrote it down. She started sharing relentlessly the wisdom that she was taking out of the book on social. And after a certain point in time, his team saw how often she was talking about it, connected the dots, there was an opportunity to do an event together before then she was ultimately standing on the stage, and the opportunity to do the commercial work opened the door for a personal relationship that has blessed us. It's been amazing. But if she hadn't been every day for literally, it was 2 years worth of time writing this thing down, I don't know that it would have occurred to her to hold the book up as often as she did online. She did it, I think, in part because her unconscious brain was trying to connect a dot that might afford this thing that she'd suggested was going to happen to actually come to be. And here, 3-5 years later, we are, I mean, like, he's family.